He raises kingdoms, he takes down kingdoms, he creates laws, he creates a judgment for those laws. It doesn't really get any clearer, folks. Yahweh is the king of the earth. Welcome back, everyone, to Best Gnosis. Thank you so much for joining me again. We're going to be discussing the God who rules the earth in this session. This is going to be extremely exciting, extremely revealing. We're going to be jumping around from the Old Testament to the New Testament. We're going to look at some definitions, and we're going to rightly divide. Okay, to get things started, we're going to jump into Psalms 47:2. For the Lord Most High is terrible. He is a great king over all of the earth. And then Psalms 47:7. For God is the king of all of the earth. Sing ye praises with understanding. All right, well, clearly Yahweh is the king of the earth. There we have two verses within the same scripture that make it very clear to understand that is Yahweh's position. I want to take a look at some definitions real quick before we get too much deeper into the scripture. Let's take a look at the definition of what a ruler is. So the KJV dictionary gives us the definition of ruler as one that governs, whether emperor, king, pope, or governor, anyone that exercises supreme power over others. One that makes or executes laws in a limited or free government. Thus, legislators and magistrates are called rulers. So to sum that up, I think we have a full understanding here that a ruler is a king that creates or executes laws within a limited or free government. Let's jump over to Deuteronomy 3:2-3. And the Lord said unto me, fear him not, for I will deliver him and all his people and his land into thy hand. And thou shalt do unto him as thou did unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, which dwelt in Heshbon. So the Lord our God delivered into our hands Og also, the king of Bashan. Here we have Yahweh performing as a king. He's taking out people and taking their land and giving it to another people. We see it again here in Deuteronomy 6:10. And it shall be, when the Lord thy God shall have brought thee into the land which he sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give thee great and goodly cities, which thou buildest not. Well, I'd say that is, that's pretty wild. So what's happening here? So basically, Yahweh is taking an already established area, an already established location. We're talking about cities and buildings and goods within the, in fact, if you read down a little further within this verse, you're going to see that they have lots of food and items and goods that do not belong to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob. They didn't build any of this. They don't own any of this. None of this is theirs. So that just means that Yahweh is taking it from the people that own it and giving it to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now jumping over to 1 Kings 11:11. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, forasmuch as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Once again, we see Yahweh's kingship, his rulership here. Solomon did not uphold the laws and commandments or statutes that Yahweh has given him. So he's stripping him of his kingdom and giving it to another. Jumping back over to Deuteronomy 28:15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So looking back, the only conclusion that we can come to is that through the worship and obedience of Yahweh, you are empowered. People are given land, and their kingdoms are raised up above others. And through disobedience to Yahweh, those kingdoms are taken down, and judgments are brought on to people who do not, obey his laws and his statutes. Let's jump on over to the New Testament. We're going to get out of the Old Testament for a minute here. Let's take a look at John 18:36. Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence." Wow. So Jesus is clearly stating that his kingdom is not earth. He is not the king of earth. If he were the king of earth, then his servants, his angels would come down and stand up for him. They would fight for him. Jesus is clearly 100% transparent, making a statement that he is not the king of this earth. Not only that, but he gives you another example of kingship. What do you mean? He's telling you that if he were the king, then his angels would fight for him. So this is an example of what a king has. He has people that fight for him, that come out and fight for him. Well, that's interesting, because now we're going to jump back over to the Old Testament, and we're going to look at 1 Chronicles 21:15. And God sent an angel onto Jerusalem to destroy it. And as he was destroying, the Lord beheld, and he repented him of the evil. So clearly it's evil that this angel is destroying Jerusalem for God. We get another example of this over in 2 Kings 19:35. And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Lord went out and smote in the camp of the Assyrians, and 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. So here Yahweh sent out an angel that killed 450,000 people, so that when they woke up in the morning, all these bodies were dead everywhere. Here is two solid examples of Yahweh sending angels to fight for him, because he is the king of the earth. This is some heavy stuff, folks. Let's jump back over to the New Testament and take a look at 2 Corinthians 4:4. "In whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine on to them." Wow, people. I mean, this is a big deal. Clearly, the gospel of Christ exposes who the God of this earth is. Let's look over at John 12:31. "Now is the judgment of this world. Now shall the prince of this world be cast out." Well, let's take a look at what the definition of prince is. According to the Webster Dictionary, prince is a monarch or a king, the ruler of a principality or state. So the prince they're talking about here is the king of the earth. Now let's jump over to John 14:30. "Hereafter I will not talk much with you, for the prince of this world cometh, and hath nothing in me." So what does that mean exactly? Well, first you have to understand that this is Jesus speaking. And of course, 1 John 3:5 tells us that Jesus has never sinned. So we have to have a full understanding of what's going on here. Jesus is born under the law, but Jesus has never broke the law. Therefore, the king of this world has no control over Jesus, has no authority over Jesus, because Jesus has never broke the law. Now let's dive into John 16, 8 through 11. And when he is come, he will reprove the world of sin and of righteousness and of judgment. Of sin, because they believe not on me. Of righteousness, because I go to my Father, and ye see me no more. And of judgment, because the prince of this world is judged. Oh man, these are heavy hitters. Well, I got news for you folks. I got a big eye opener here for you. Guess what? God the Father, the creator of the world, the Father of Jesus Christ, never was the king of this earth. Now I know what you're thinking. What are you trying to say, buddy? Well, it's pretty simple. Let's jump over to Genesis 1:26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Hello? When God created the earth, and he created people, he created man and woman, he gave kingship to them. So maybe you're thinking, well, it says the word dominion, doesn't necessarily say king. Well, that's fair. So then let's go ahead and pull up a definition of dominion. Let's take a closer look at what that word actually means. According to the Webster Dictionary, the definition of dominion is supreme authority, sovereignty, having dominion over the natural world, absolute ownership. Man. Look, folks, are we waking up? Do we have the eyes to see and the ears to hear? Well, then I don't understand. It must be confusing now. How is it that humans are the king of the earth, yet Yahweh is the king of the earth? Well, this is going to be a big one, folks. So let's take a look at Romans 6:16. Know ye not that to whom ye yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants ye are to whom ye obey, whether of sin unto death or of obedience unto righteousness. I got a news flash for you, folks. When Adam and Eve disobeyed God in the garden and instead obeyed Satan or the serpent, they at that time handed over their kingship and became servants of Satan. I know this is pretty heavy. In fact, Psalms 115, 15 through 16 actually informs you of this information as well. Ye are blessed of the Lord which made heaven and earth. The heaven, even the heavens, are the Lord's, but the earth hath he given to the children of men. The earth was never under the kingship of God. It was never under the kingship of God. So, who's Yahweh?